The T-Virus. The apple in the eye of Umbrella. The creator of zombies, hunters, and lickers, oh my! And of course, the Tyrant. The ugly clawed abomination that was the pride and joy of some of Umbrella's most disturbed scientists. But how did this monstrosity come to be? And just how many different versions were there? Let's peel back the curtain. I'm Cy for First Aid Spray, and this is the Tyrant Program. Like our other videos on lore, we wouldn't be able to put this together as easily as we can without the Resident Evil podcast's thorough mythology on the series, so special thanks to REP and timeline writer The Batman. And now, on with the video. One of the most important goals of Umbrella, and specifically their T-Virus research, was the development of biological super soldiers, massive, powerful brutes who were as subservient as they were unstoppable. It took a decade of T-Virus research between 1978 and 1988 before the virus was stable enough to begin the Tyrant Program, helmed by Dr. William Birkin and Dr. Albert Wesker. It's ironic that the first decade of T-Virus development was to engineer a higher rate of success, considering the Tyrant Program was almost killed before it began due to the demand that it had on its subjects. The physical and mental aptitude of any patient subjected to it would need to be immense, and it was predicted that only 1 in 10 million people would be appropriate. In today's numbers, that would mean there would only be 32 useful candidates across the entire United States of America. Thus, the project ceased almost immediately and was inactive until 1991, when a certain Sergei Vladimir, former USSR colonel, joined Umbrella Incorporated. Not only was Vladimir a prime candidate for the rigorous Tyrant Program due to his DNA, he also had a rather unique selling point in that there were 11 of him. During his time in the Soviet army, Vladimir had been part of a secret cloning procedure and often went into battle with 10 clones of himself at his side. For an executive seat in the company hierarchy, Vladimir traded ownership of these clones to Umbrella. This meant immediate progress for the Tyrant Program, and using these Vladimir copies, William Birkin developed the famed Epsilon strain of the T-Virus that would more easily bond to a subject's DNA, so much so that the zombies that it created often wouldn't stay dead, but that's a subject for another time. However, they weren't out of the woods yet. The quick and monumentous changes that the Tyrant project would cause to a subject's body was so stupendous that most would just be ripped apart by the mutation. Thus, candidates had to be at peak physical condition with strong immune systems. It was around this time that Umbrella started purchasing death row inmates to use as test subjects. Some were given various surgeries to increase their physical strength, and whilst this couldn't stop the loss of some life, a pair of inmates successfully became the first complete Tyrants. The T-001 model, sometimes called the Proto-Tyrant, was most certainly a breakthrough, but demonstrated a lack of intelligence and had begun to physically decay due to the T-Virus. It was the lesser of the two, and was therefore scheduled for disposal. The other was the T-002. This specimen was seen as the height of Umbrella's work at the time. It was as strong as they had hoped, and able to follow complex commands. This Tyrant's data was immediately sent to other laboratories to be fine-tuned and expanded upon. The only immediate disadvantage that Umbrella acknowledged were concerns about control. Tests were put into place to fix these issues that would never come to be, however, due to the outbreak at the Arclay facility and the eventual loss of the subject in the X-Day Mansion explosion. Although we'd argue a large red shoot here target on the Tyrant's chest was also a kind of weakness, but what do we know? Meanwhile, underneath Raccoon City, William Birkin had begun work on the T-103 Tyrant using data from its predecessors. The good doctor had developed a secondary mutation, christened Super Tyrant, for his creation that allowed it to come back from the brink of destruction. This form was so dangerous that it had to be kept at bay with a power limiter that stopped it from mutating without provocation. On the plus side, the coat also meant that the Tyrant could potentially slip by undercover as long as nobody looked too hard at it, I guess. The T-103 was the ideal form of the Tyrant and was set to be mass-produced due to not only its viability, but also its customizable nature. One immediate example of this is Sergei Vladimir's own designs that he had developed for himself. His T-103 custom Tyrant that he nicknamed Ivan used the Tyrant Armoured Lethal Organic System, or TALOS, to further develop its training and subservience, and also make it look like it had come out of a Euro rave in the 90s. The T-103 began mass production at the Umbrella-owned Sheena Island, and it would begin to appear all throughout Umbrella. On Rockfort Island they were tweaked and used for training the company's own militia. In Raccoon City, Greg Mueller created his Thanasost variant based on his own ideas of the perfect life form rather than commercial bioweaponry. And back on Sheena, a smaller, more agile variant called the Hypnos T was produced. There were even unique Tyrants created by combining both the T-Virus and Birkin's G. The sheer scope of possibility for the Tyrant seemed to be endless, as these were all produced within mere months of each other. The Tyrant program was partly born out of rivalry with Umbrella Europe, and their, at the time, successful research of the NET parasite, and Umbrella America had successfully beaten them to the giant grey punch with the T-103. However, it was the combination of these things that wrought something else entirely. A mass-produced Tyrant administered the NET parasite transformed into something that had a greater drive than any other specimen from the project. The parasite inside of Nemesis would follow its goals no matter the cost or risk to itself, and it mutated the T-103 into a wild, tentacle-wielding machine of destruction. With Umbrella's end in 2005, the Tyrant program officially ceased, and the T-Epsilon, as well as any other advancements further, were leaked onto the black market. From here it gets hard to track what happened next. Without Umbrella's supervision, it would seem that the Tyrant itself was largely unachieved by other companies, but the effect that it had on bioweaponry was clearly seen in development of other viruses and BOWs. The sole clear exception to this being the developments made by a mysterious party in the Eastern Slav Republic that saw the Tyrant skyrocket, quite literally, to a staggering 14 feet tall. Take that, Lady Dimitrescu. And able to release its power limiter at will. And that's all that we know about the Tyrant program. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Which Tyrant model was your favourite? And what other parts of the lore would you like us to cover? And be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with everything that we do. I've been Cy for First Aid Spray, and have a good week.